Okay, today's practice is concentrating or bringing a lot of our attention to the psoas. And I'll share my screen first if you're interested in looking at this part. Here is the psoas. Psoas major and minor. And you can see that it attaches at the lumbar spine and comes down to the femur. Here's another smaller image of the psoas. And the interesting thing about the psoas, its main job is to flex the leg. So to flex at the hip and bring the leg up towards the torso, right? That's its main job. But what happens often is that a couple of things, if our abdominals are weak, the psoas has way too much to do. It takes over. So we work on strengthening around the whole core cylinder, front, sides, and back. And we'll do a little bit of that today. And the other thing that is problematic for the psoas is that we sit too much. So I was reviewing my day. This is the I don't know, the downside of being a yoga teacher. Like I was up at 6:30 this morning thinking about how much I sit. So I was thinking about my day yesterday. I drove to Aspen and I sat for an hour in my car. Then I got out and went snowboarding for 4 hours. Most of that is sitting on the chairlift. So it takes a little bit longer to get up than down in my case. So I'm sitting on the chairlift. Then I get back in my car. So I sit another hour coming back home. Then, I make my lunch and sit and eat my lunch, and maybe I watch some TV, but I end up sitting a lot, even though I'm an active person. So when we sit a lot, that shortens the psoas muscle. And then the psoas, we either get an over tight psoas muscle. Remember, over tight equals weak, or we get a really lazy psoas muscle. Yep. So today, for props, helpful props are, if you have a yoga bolster, that would be a helpful prop. If you don't have a yoga bolster, some kind of pillow, couch pillow, I have one there in my background, a big black pillow. That would be helpful for today's practice. Great, I see some of you grabbing some pillows. And then there'll be one part of the practice where we're going to use a chair. If you don't have a chair, any piece of furniture where you can have your hands on the furniture at about your shoulder height, a little bit lower, a little bit higher, won't matter, but about shoulder height. So when that part comes, just we'll adjust to that. So starting in a seat or on your back, on your mat, take just a couple of minutes to settle. Because this is actually the really important part of the psoas. The psoas is deeply connected to our whole lifestyle of keeping everything together all the time, of holding on really tight, of feeling like effort is the way we do everything. And the psoas never gets to release. So we all know it. And you could even explore right now if you feel like you're in a hurry. You've given yourself an hour of practice. And so now just be present here and settle and come to some clarity about why you come to practice, why you're here today. At the end of class, I'll stop the recording and I'll ring the chime. Just so you know, that's when you can come out, okay? And then we'll meet on our mats. if you have your blocks handy, that would be great. Blanket perhaps for your knees. And I'm going to start by stopping. So I've got my prop, which is a big old couch pillow here underneath my knees. And I'm just going to come to my back. And I'm going to let my knees rest on my prop. And I'm going to let my ribs, especially the back ribs, really sink towards the floor. And we'll take a few rounds of breath here. Just letting everything settle and relax. Again, so much of the function or the dysfunction of the psoas muscle is in general, our lifestyle. So see if you check in here. Do you feel like you're in a hurry? Let yourself just be really, really still here and relaxed. My teacher would say, we empty before we fill. We're always filling, so we need to empty before we fill. Three more rounds of breath. Notice if you're able to take a nice big belly breath, or if your breath is shallow and up in your chest, which might indicate a tight psoas. Okay, from here, we're going to scoop the prop underneath our pelvis. So I'm on a big pillow, but you could alternately take, just to show you something a little different for a prop, you could take your 2 blocks, set a soft blanket on top of it. Okay, and I could take, this could be my prop. So I don't want the prop underneath my low back, I want it underneath my pelvis. Okay, so if everybody gets that set up, that'd be great. Soles of the feet on the floor. Now bend take your hands actually and put them right to the inside of your hip flexor or your hip pointers. Okay, this is the area of the psoas. It's very hard to feel the psoas, you know, it's a deep muscle. But this is the area of the psoas, and we're gonna just explore both sides of your psoas. So take your right hand away, leave your left hand where it is, bend your right knee, and just hover your knee over your hips. Okay. Now with your left hand on your low belly, you're just feeling for whether the left psoas is going to help the right psoas do its job. So right now, the psoas on the right side is engaged because we're flexing the knee in towards the chest. And we're just going to take our right foot, touch toes to the floor, and then bring the right knee back up towards the chest. Touch toes to the floor, bring your right knee back into your chest. And all you're doing is getting a sense of whether the left psoas, the left side of your lower abdomen, is trying to help. You'll feel it if it is, right? And if it's not, it'll be nice and relaxed over there on that side. Great. Now set your right foot down, put your right hand on the same area on the right side, bend your left knee in towards your chest, and then reach out, touch your toes to the floor, back in. Repeat that and see if the right psoas is trying to help the left side. And if you feel that on either side, probably means the opposite side is kind of weak. Okay, great. Now, let's go back to both feet on the floor. Make sure your hips are on the prop. If you don't have a prop, you could be on the floor. It will be fine. Right? If you don't have a prop, you're just on the floor. Bring your right knee towards your chest. Take your right hand to your thigh. Press your thigh into your hand and resist strongly with your hand. Okay, this is the psoas working. This is hip flexion right here. Press, really press. Now, take your left leg and stretch it long on the floor. Okay, left leg is long, and perhaps hover. So now you're asking the core, some other core muscles to work while the hip flexor psoas does its job. So left foot is hovering or just resting. Hover, hover. For 3, 2, 1, release. Pull both knees in towards your chest. And then take your right foot back to the floor. Press your left thigh into your left hand and resist with your left hand. Really get the hip flexion going. Then stretch the right leg long. And perhaps hover, 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 hover the right foot off the floor, just about an inch. Left leg is in flexion, the psoas is engaged here, and we keep our pelvis nice and level as we do this work. For 3, 2, 1, and both knees in. Okay, from here you could set your feet to the floor. If you have a prop, slide your prop out of the way, come down to your back, and take your feet wide and just do some windshield wipers back and forth. Good. Stretch everything long, legs long, arms overhead. Reach through your heels. Press through one heel and then press through the other heel. Just get a bit of relief there. Great. And then we'll roll over onto our tummies and deal with the back side a little bit. Okay, so roll onto your tummy. And you can rest your forehead on the floor or your chin. It's up to you, if you need a pillow even. And then palms down on the floor. Tops of the feet to the floor. And then you're going to bend one knee so that the sole of your foot is facing the ceiling. And then keeping your hips nice and level, just lift that foot up towards the ceiling as much as possible. Your thigh will come off the floor just a little bit. Don't rock. Notice if you rock to that side, you don't want to rock to that side. You just want to press your foot up towards the ceiling and lower it back down. Press your foot up towards the ceiling. See if the other side can be totally relaxed as you do this. So this is just one side of, we're working the back muscles, we're in the pelvis, just lifting. Different action happening in the psoas now. It's a lengthening. One more time. And release. Then bend the other leg. Keeping your leg as much as possible. It's hard to see this unless you have a partner there with you. But your leg is, lower leg is perpendicular to the floor. Bend at the ankle so your toes are back towards your lower leg, and then press straight up, lifting the thigh any amount, or if it doesn't lift, imagining that it does, up towards the ceiling. Relax the other side. See if you can totally relax the other side. One more. Then from here, just make a little pillow with your hands. Bend both knees. Take your knees out as wide as the edge of your mat and just rock, let your feet rock back and forth. Great, then we come up to hands and knees. So here, if you need the blanket to pad your knees, you can take the blanket to pad your knees. And just a couple of cat-cows, or this rocking action we've been doing where you just rock forward and then rock back, rock forward and back. In fact, let's have everybody rock forward and back. We'll kind of incorporate one of the flows we do a lot with this rocking. So next time you're forward and you're in cat, turn toes under, press hips up and back, downward facing dog. And then inhale back to all fours and rock. Great, and then next time you're forward and you're in cat, with your, you're in cow, sorry, with the arch in your low back, turn your toes under, press up and back, downward facing dog. And then drop your knees, rock back and forth. One more time, so come forward, cow, turn toes under, press up and back, downward facing dog. Drop to your knees. Great, now here, you're gonna grab a block, you're in table, and I've put a piece of tape on my block so you can see where my block is resting. I'm gonna put my block right on my sacrum. Right on my sacrum. Right there on my sacrum. And then I'm going to lift my right leg out and back, keeping my pelvis level. Don't let the block come off. Then take that knee down. Then I got to try the other side. Stretch the left leg long. Keep the block from falling off so pelvis is nice and level. And then set that back down. Just do that one or two more times just to feel, what does it feel like to have a nice level pelvis when you're asking your legs to do something, engage in some way. Great, there we go. Good. Okay, then you can take the block off your sacrum and probably set your blocks to the front of your mat now for the next little bit of work. Standing up onto your knees. Let's bring the right foot forward. And you're going to come into a lunge. So as you lunge, you want to line up your front knee over your front ankle. So the back leg is extended, and your back leg, which is your left leg, that's getting a eccentric contraction of the psoas, right? Or a stretch. Hands to the front leg, right on top of your knee there. You're going to really line that front knee over the front ankle. Now draw your right hip back so that you get your pelvis squared up. Lift your pelvic floor. You could stay right here, or you could inhale, sweep your arms out and up. Biceps by ears. Now bring your low ribs in so the diaphragm has lots of room to expand, taking nice deep breaths here. Beautiful, everybody. And then from here, we'll bring hands down around the front foot or to a set of blocks or to your knee. Turn your back toe under, press up into crescent lunge. Eventually, everybody get hand to the front knee. Okay, so front knee, front leg is at 90 degrees. We're gonna dip down and touch the back knee towards the mat and then stand up straight. Straighten both legs. So you really feel this front leg, the glutes tighten, right? Then we'll bend through the front leg again and bring the back knee towards the floor and then straighten up. Now you could leave your hands on your thigh as you do this, or as you straighten up, you could bring your arms up overhead, a little more balancy. Bend and bring the back knee towards the floor and then straighten everything up. Good. Then this last time, we'll come all the way back to the knee, the back knee. Take our front knee back so that we're standing on our knees. Hands back to the floor. So you're back in table and rocking back and forth. Just get a little reset here. Come to cow, turn toes under, press up and back, downward facing dog. You can pedal through your feet here, downward dog. Then next inhale, drop your knees, come to cow, rock back and forth. When you land in cow the next time, turn toes under, press up and back, downward facing dog. Inhale back to cow. Stand up on your knees, bring your left foot forward, right leg stays back. And as you lunge forward, line your front ankle up underneath your front knee. Now we're letting this be a eccentric, right? We're lengthening an eccentric contraction of the psoas on the right side. Draw your left hip back so your pelvis, your hips stay square. Okay, because what will happen is if, say, this side is really tight, this right side, and you could play around with this. If your left hip sort of goes forward, you're not going to get that stretch, same stretch. If you draw the hip back, you're going to really feel that. Keep your hands here, or inhale, sweep your arms up, biceps by ears. Draw the low ribs in. Give the diaphragm lots of room, taking nice deep breaths here. Inhale, on your next exhale, you'll bring your hands forward to the blocks, to the top of your thigh or to the floor. Turn the back foot, come up into a high lunge, and then both hands on the front thigh in this crescent lunge. Then we dip the back knee down towards the floor, then straighten up through both legs. Bend the front knee, dip the back knee towards the floor, and then straighten through both legs. You can add any hand motion you want, but you can keep your hands on your front thigh as well. Really feel this work at its end point. We've got this back thigh, we've got the psoas working here in eccentric contraction. So we're strengthening this side. And then the next time you bring your right knee towards the floor, bring it all the way down, step your left foot back, both knees to the floor, blocks can go out of the way. Couple of rounds of cat-cow. Next time you're in the cow position, stay, turn your toes under, press your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Okay. From downward dog, then we come down, back down to our knees. And now we're gonna come into you want to leave your blocks handy at the front of your mat. We're gonna come into a pigeon variation. And you might have to go back to the lunge if this bothers your knees. Okay, so you could look up here first and I'll demonstrate. I'm going to bring, I'm starting in tabletop. I'm going to bring my right knee towards my right wrist, but instead of bringing my foot in towards midline, I'm going to leave my foot, I'm going to leave my foot on the outside, lined up with the long edge of my mat, my heel kind of on the outside of my right hip or touching my right hip, just like so. I slide my left leg back. Okay, so what happens here is now I don't have this external rotation of the hip happening when I bring the foot across. That's what happens in pigeon, right? So now it's just this lengthening of the psoas on the other side. If this bothers your knees, you can go back to the lunge. Now for hand position, I've got my hands on the floor, but I'm going to go ahead and take some blocks. And when I come up onto the blocks, it's a little bit bigger stretch. So I want to drop my shoulder blades down and in. And I'm trying to pull my right hip back in space so that my hips stay level. Okay, you could have your blocks down. You could be on your forearms if that's where you need to be. It's a little less intense if you're down on your forearms. So draw the right hip back in space. And let's go 3 rounds of breath here. You got it. You got it. Good. Then we press ourselves back to hands and knees. If you got the blocks, you can just keep them there. Take a rock back and forth. Take your time. Just rock back and forth a few times. And then when you're sort of in a cow position again, turn toes under, press up and back, downward facing dog. If the blocks feel awkward, just bring your hands back to the floor. Inhale, come back to the knees, rock back and forth. Find cow, turn toes under, press up and back, downward facing dog. Inhale the right leg up and back, and bend through your right knee and stack your right hip over your left hip. Come back, set your foot down. Inhale, left leg out behind you, bend through your left leg, stack your left hip over your right hip. Back to downward facing dog. Inhale to cow. And then rest back onto standing on your knees or sitting on your heels and get ready for the second side. So again, I start in the table position. And maybe your left knee is okay or it's not okay, and so you have to do something different this time. But if you can handle this in your knees, you slide your knee up towards your wrist, and your foot stays on the outside of your hip. It's like your front leg is in Virasana, right? If this works in your knees, back leg slides back, hands to the floor, hands to blocks. Okay, so really watching that the left hip now doesn't swing forward, so you take the stretch away from the right side. So draw your left hip back in space. Draw your left hip back in space. Low ribs stay in, so we want a nice, full, big belly breath here. For a count of 3 now. Great, and then after that last breath, you can come back to both knees. Rock back and forth, get rid of the blocks if you don't like them. Turn toes under, downward facing dog. Inhale, knees to the floor to cow. Exhale, set your hips back towards child's pose. Ooh. And see if you can come all the way down, elbows to the floor first. Let your back spread wide. And then we inhale back up to the all fours, turn toes under, press up and back, downward facing dog. And then from your downward dog, walk feet to hands or hands to feet, bending through your knees, coming up to standing. And this is where you're going to need either a piece of furniture or a chair. Okay, so I'm using the chair seat. That's what I'm using, the chair seat. So you could, and I'm going to have my hands on the chair seat, like just like this. You could be a little higher, so you could be using like the back of your couch or the back of a big chair or some kind of table or something. And we're just gonna, you'll have to play around with your foot position as we go through this. I'm gonna sort of dip forward like I'm coming into cow, and then round into cat and come up onto my toes. Then back to my heels and then dip forward. And then round and come up onto my toes. Drop my heels, kind of dip forward like a cow shape in my back, right? And then press and round. And then come down to my heels. So just a rolling through your spine. Cat-cow kind of movement. Now you might have your hands quite a bit higher on a counter space or something like that. Good. And then the next time you land back in sort of a cat shape, you're up on your toes, your back is rounded, take it in the opposite direction. Just do the best you can here to let it be natural. Good, and then stretch your hips back, stretch your hands forward. Back is nice and flat, so not a rounding in the back if possible. Great, and then we'll bend through the knees and come to standing. I'm going to continue to use the chair, and I'm going to take my left foot and place it right between the front legs of the chair. And I'm going to take my right foot way back, right heel turns out, and I'm going to find warrior two legs. Okay, so warrior two legs, and I really want the strong engagement in the back leg. Now notice what happens with your head when you come into warrior two, and if you're poking your head forward, get your head, your ears back over your shoulders. Now find really this back. The back glute is very engaged here. Good. Now, we're going to come into extended side angle, which is going to allow an eccentric contraction of this, of the psoas back in this back leg. So my hand, I'm going to take my hand to the chair. You can use your thigh. And I'm going to come into my extended side angle. Keep the front shoulder out of your ear. And really engage the back glutes. And we'll take 3 rounds of breath here. And on your next inhale, sweep your top arm up, straighten the front leg, come up to more of a triangle stance, drive your hips back, and just bring your hand to your thigh. So it's a pretty upright triangle shape. Back hand to your hip. Again, bring your Make that double chin. Bring your chin back and stack your ears over your shoulders. Great. Now on your next inhale, we'll bend, or exhale, we'll bend through the front knee again. Establish that strong back hip. Hand to your prop. Inhale, come back into extended side angle. For 3, 2, 1. Next inhale, sweep your top arm up. Come to standing. Turn both feet to face parallel to one another and the short edge of your mat. And turn to the other side. In my case, I'll turn my chair around so you can see me. Now it's right foot, left foot back, left heel out. Find warrior 2 legs to begin with. So the front ankle underneath the front knee, back glutes engaged. Great. Head back, bring your front hand to your prop or your thigh and come into extended side angle. 3 rounds of breath here. Keep the back glute engaged. Next inhale, sweep your top arm up, straighten your front leg, shoot your hips back in space, and just tilt hand to the thigh, triangle, triangle shape here. Then as you exhale, next time you bend through the front knee, come back into the warrior 2. Ears back over shoulders, strong back hip. Bring your hand to the chair. Come into extended side angle. Keep the back glute engaged. For 3, 2, 1. Next inhale, sweep your hand up. Turn both feet. Take a breath here. Exhale to a fold. Bring your hands out in front so you're in a wide stance, downward dog. Bring your hips back in line with your heels. Drive your thighs towards the back of your space. Keep your kneecaps up, engaged. And then walk your hands back. Heel toe your feet together, bend through your knees, step up. Okay, we're still using the chair. I'm just changing my orientation to you. So now come to the chair with hands on the chair, and you'll position your feet in such a way that your shoulders can come down and in, and your back can be nice and neutral. So back is in a neutral position. So that means a little bit of arch in your low back. Okay, right, here we go. So this, if you want to look up here at my back and see what I mean by neutral spine, that's what we want. So no rounding. Great. And then we're gonna do something we do a lot without sometimes the intention of keeping the back neutral. Try to keep your back neutral as you inhale and stretch the right leg long. Exhale, bend your right knee and bring it in towards your chest, but don't round your back. Keep your back in a neutral position. Inhale, reach the right leg long. Exhale, bend your right knee, bring it towards your right elbow. You can come forward, but keep your back in neutral position. Inhale, stretch your right leg long. Exhale, bend your right knee, bring it towards your left elbow. Don't allow your back to round. And then inhale, reach the right leg long. Exhale, set your foot down on the floor. Kind of challenging, isn't it? Let's try the other side. Inhale, take the left leg long. Feel for level hips. Exhale, See, I almost said it. Exhale, bend through your left knee, keep your back in neutral and bring your knee towards your chest. Hip flexors at work. Inhale, reach the leg back. Exhale, bend through your left knee, bring your knee towards your left elbow. Inhale, straighten the leg. Exhale, left knee towards right elbow. Keeping the back flat. Inhale, reach out. And exhale, set your foot down on the floor. Take a couple of rounds of that sort of undulating through your spine thing we did. And we're going to come back to that. So finding length through your back. Adjust your feet as needed. And your hands, you don't have to be down as low as I am. You could be up on something a little bit higher. This is just my preference, okay? Pelvis is nice and level, hips are level. Inhale, reach the right leg out. Exhale, bend through your right knee, bring your knee towards your chest without rounding your back. Inhale, reach the right leg long. Exhale, bend through your right knee, bring it towards your right elbow without rounding your back. Keep your back neutral. Inhale, reach the right leg long. Exhale, bring it across your body to your left elbow. Inhale, reach it long. Exhale, set it back down. Now you notice that the standing leg is doing some work, right? You should feel your glutes engaged in the standing leg. Right, inhale, left leg long. So standing leg, get those glutes active. Exhale, bend through your left knee and bring it towards your chest, keeping your back nice and flat. Inhale, reach out. Exhale, towards the left elbow. Inhale, reach your left leg long. Exhale, take it towards the right elbow without rounding your back. Oh, there it is. Oh. Inhale and exhale. Take both feet to the floor. Take one more round of that articulation through the spine. Great. And then if you've got a chair that you're using, set your chair aside. If you're just by some furniture, come to the front of your mat, Tadasana, everybody. And inhale, sweep your arms up. Exhale, bend through your knees and fold through your heart center. Take your hands to the floor and step or jump back to downward facing dog. Now, the pelvis is tilted forward slightly in this downward dog. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do the same thing. If you have trouble keeping your back in this neutral position, go back to the prop. Inhale the right leg out. Exhale, bring your right knee towards your chest, keeping your back in that neutral position. Inhale. Exhale, right knee towards right elbow. Inhale. Exhale, right knee towards left elbow. Inhale. Exhale, right foot to the floor. Inhale, drop your knees, come to cow. Rock back and forth. Take this on your forearms if your wrists are bothering you in any way. Next time you're forward, find cow, turn toes under, up and back, downward dog. Find a little forward tilt in your pelvis. Inhale, left leg out. Exhale, bend through your left knee, bring it towards your chest without rounding your back. Inhale. Exhale, bring it towards your your left elbow without rounding your back. Inhale. Stretch the leg long. Exhale, bring your left knee towards your right elbow without rounding your back. Inhale and exhale. Take your feet to the floor, downward facing dog. Inhale back to the cow, rock back and forth. Then from this table position, kickstand the left foot out, extend the right leg long, and come into a variation of side plank with your left knee on the floor, your right foot on the floor. Then come back to table, rock back and forth. Come back to the neutral position, outswing your right foot so it's like a little bit of a kickstand, and stretch your left leg and come into a variation of side plank on this side. Left leg is long, right knee is on the floor. And bring it back down, come back to all fours, rock back and forth. Find cow, turn toes under, up and back, downward facing dog. Then walk your feet to your hands or your hands to your feet, deep bend in the knees, pressing up, come to Tadasana. Standing in Tadasana with your palms forward. Find a neutral pelvis. So find a neutral pelvis. Inhale, sweep your arms up and just take a little bit of a lift out of your pelvis and gaze up towards your hands. Not big. Keep your kneecaps engaged, keep your muscles pulling into bones, draw your low ribs in. And then exhale, fold down, bend in the knees as much as possible, fold down to the floor, hands to the floor, bending through your knees, coming right down to your seat, coming right back to your back with something underneath your knees. So it could be a blanket, could be a pillow. You want something underneath your knees. Okay, so right back down to the floor. Now let everything just really come to this still point. Let everything soften here. Just for 2 more rounds of breath. Great, now bring both knees into your chest again. Okay. Take your right foot to the floor. You might have to move your prop out of the way. Take your right foot to the floor. Bring your right hand to that same spot we started with, and then touch your left toes down to the floor, and then bring your left knee back into your chest. See if you can have the right side really relaxed while the left side does the work. Just touching your toes, bring your knee back into your chest. Right side, right psoas is not helping here. It's just your left side. And let's do maybe 8 to 12 of these. When you've done that many, switch it up. Left foot on the floor, left hand on that spot. Right knee, we're gonna bring it into the chest and then bring the toes to the floor. I can feel ever so slight my left side trying to help. So I'm gonna really try just to use my right side. So this to me indicates that my right psoas is a little bit weaker. My right side's a little bit weaker. And not probably connected to that is that I have a lot of uncomfortable pain sometimes in my right lower back. So not a surprise, those two things are connected. Those two things are connected. So I do some more strengthening or letting go. I mean, a tight muscle is a weak muscle too. So it might be I have a really tight right psoas. And anywhere from 8 to 12. And when you've done your number, your magic number, soles of the feet back to the floor and a nice windshield wiper movement back and forth. Take your time because as you go to one side, you get a nice little stretch in the psoas. Nice gentle stretch when you go to the other side. So take your time, do as many as you need, and then listen carefully. You'll come back to a Shavasana shape. So that could be flat on your back, prop underneath the knees, legs up onto a piece of furniture. But I'm going to guide us through a little bit longer Shavasana today, because what we know about the psoas is that it's very connected to the way we live our lives. So this constant holding, this constant tension, we got to hold everything together. Okay. So we a nice long Shavasana, get your blankets together, whatever you need to be comfortable. And at the end of the Shavasana, you'll hear the chime ring, and that is your cue to come on back. Again, so you can take just a traditional Shavasana lying on your back. You could set your feet up the wall or up on some furniture. Or you could prop something underneath your knees. Nice to put something, a little bit of weight on your body that helps us to ground, even a blanket. And now feel the back of your skull touching the floor. Can you soften that area? Almost as if your head were spreading wider. Soften your ears towards the floor. Release any tension in your forehead or around your eyes. Release your jaw. You can toggle right and left, and then release. And soften your tongue all the way back to the root of your tongue. Relax the muscles in your neck. Feel where your shoulders touch the floor and let your shoulders soften towards the floor. Feel your upper arms heavy on the floor. And allow your upper back to spread wide and release down into the floor. Soften your hands. Feel the vibration and sensation in the palms of your hands. And release any tension in your fingers and all the way to the tips of your fingers. Feel your hips on the floor. Let your hips spread and soften. Feel the heaviness of your legs. Soften around your knees. And let your lower legs relax down towards the floor. Feet falling out to the sides. Release any tension, any holding in your ankles. Feel for the soles of your feet, the pulsation and sensation in the soles of your feet. Softening right to the tips of your toes. Breath is easy. So next inhale is into a soft belly. Let the breath be natural and easy and soft.